Now, I got some more points. If you challenge Donald Trump or his VP nominee, Vance, if you challenge them on, well, these concepts don't seem to make much sense and nobody really understands them and the economists tell you they're not going to work. If you challenge them, they'll fall back on one answer. It does not matter what it is, housing, healthcare, education, paying for the bills. One answer, blame the immigrants. Don't boo. What did I tell you? He wants you to believe that if you elect him, he will just round up whoever he wants and ship them out, and all your problems will be solved. Now, let me tell you something, because I've been working on this for a long time. We have a real issue at the border. We are a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. We have to make sure the system works the way it's supposed to so that we've got legal immigration, which built our nation, where we've got folks like the DACA folks that I worked on behalf of to make sure that they grew up here, that we give them pathways to citizenship. But we also have to have an orderly border. We have to have it fair. There's nothing, that's the truth. We have to fix some aspects of it that are broken. Sí se puede. But when I hear Donald Trump talk, I keep on, you know, he's very quick to say to Kamala, well, you were vice president 4 years. Dude, you were president for 4 years. As I recall, you were up there in the Oval Office. So if rounding up and deporting millions of desperate people, many of them who are women and children, if that's the answer to everything, well, why is it that the number of undocumented immigrants were basically the same when he left office as when he took office? He didn't solve the problem, and I'll tell you why. Because he does not have a real plan. He has a concept of a plan, and it's a mean and ugly plan designed to foster resentment and divide people. You know what would actually bring order to the border? Help fix our immigration system? There was a bipartisan deal just a few months ago. Kamala Harris supported it, even though it was written by one of the most conservative Republicans in Congress. That same bill, Donald Trump purposely told Republicans in Congress, do not vote for it. Not because he thought necessarily that it won't work, but because he wanted to keep the issue to campaign on. He thinks fear-mongering is how he's going to win this election. We do not need a president who will make problems worse just to make his politics better. We need a president who actually cares about solving problems and making your life better, and that's what Kamala Harris will do.
Here's the thing. Donald Trump is a demagogue, and for centuries, demagoguery has worked, where a country's leader will use the other as a cause for all of your problems. You don't have enough money because poor people are getting welfare checks. You don't have jobs because immigrants are taking your jobs. Or, most recently, you don't have safety because Haitians are eating your dogs and cats and other pets. It's always some other group, a group that just so happens to be a vulnerable group. And yet, think about what happens when a white, powerful billionaire like Trump pits his working-class white base against low-income immigrants, or the LGBT community, or childless cat ladies, or whatever other group he can punch down on. All of their attention is trained away from the people who are actually responsible for the problems. Let me make this clear. You don't not have enough money because someone on welfare is getting poverty wages from the government. You don't have enough money because Republicans have been engaged in a 60-year campaign tricking people into thinking that cutting taxes for millionaires and billionaires is going to trickle down to the poor. And yet, what's happened since 1980 when this was implemented? When you take a look at this chart, income inequality exploded since Republicans implemented trickle-down economics. Which is super weird because all this time we've been told that when you heap ungodly amounts of wealth onto the ultra-rich, that everybody becomes rich, right? That everyone sees prosperity. And clearly that's not true and has never been true, and Republicans know that, and so they have to distract you. And the way they do that is by beating you over the head with this bogus notion that the reason the wealth isn't shared in this country can't possibly be because they've rigged our economy to benefit themselves. No, that can't possibly be it. It's that immigrants are taking it all from you, or the poor are taking it all from you, or the elderly are taking it all from you. Republicans will tell people making $60,000 a year that people making $30,000 a year are the problem to cover for the people making millions per year. And so it makes sense that Trump and his billionaire buddies like Elon Musk would be so focused on vilifying immigrants, because without them, there exists the possibility that you might actually focus your attention on the people who are responsible for the way that things are going in this country. Here's an example of what I mean. A few months back, both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump noted that grocery costs were too high, right? Kamala rightly pointed out that food retailers were using inflation as a pretext to raise food prices, all while raking in record profits. And so it's clear that those companies were exploiting the American people, all while hiding behind inflation. After all, the companies can't say that they were both raising prices to account for higher costs while raking in record profits, meaning it was just greed. Kamala recognized that and promoted a bill that would hold corporate price gougers to account. That's what she's promising if she becomes president. Now let's look at Trump. He said that food costs were high, not because of the greedy corporations, but because of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. He blamed them. And so, in effect, he's not just lying, he's actually giving the people responsible for high food prices cover because he's refusing to hold them accountable, focusing his attention instead on his political opponent. Meaning, those companies get to keep getting rich on the back of Americans, and the only person who could actually do something to hold them to account if he becomes president won't, because it's more politically convenient for him to use your pain as a wedge issue for his political benefit. Republicans want to pin these problems on the wrong people, even though they're the ones responsible for entrenching them. Here's another example. Why do you think Elon Musk has been so quick to adopt Trump's anti-immigrant rhetoric? Do you think he's truly afraid of immigrants? Elon Musk, who I might remind you is an immigrant? No, of course not. He recognizes rightly that using them as a blame receptacle will help Republicans win. And if Republicans win, guess who pays lower taxes? The richest man in the world. This isn't rocket science, guys. This is wealthy, powerful people who have figured out that they can help themselves get rich, and all they have to do is keep their base nice and distracted by scaring Meemaw and Pop Pop about the brown people outside coming to rape the women and sell drugs to the kids. Republicans are not trying to help their base, they have figured out a way to exploit them for their own financial gain. When Republicans win, the real suckers here are the people who voted for them, thinking that their problems will go away. They won't, because those Republicans don't look out for normal people when they're in office. They don't look out for the working class or the poor, they look out for themselves. And you don't have to look too far for an example. Trump and Republicans had full control of government from 2017 to 2019. Did they pass a tax cut for regular people? Did they bring manufacturing jobs for the working class back to the US? Did they bolster clean energy manufacturing so that China wouldn't get a leg up on the fastest growing sector in the world? No. They gave millionaires and billionaires a tax cut. That's it. That's what they use their political capital on. In fact, the way you know that the working class specifically did not get a tax cut is that Donald Trump promised a middle-class tax cut, but only if Republicans won the midterm elections. So tell me, if the first tax cut that he passed truly did benefit the middle class, then why would Trump have to promise the middle class their own tax cut if Republicans win? It's because they didn't benefit the middle class, but he needed a carrot to get the rubes in his base to head out to the polls. It'll always be more promises and more guarantees, but they will never come to fruition because those people, the rich and powerful seeking to pad their bottom lines, do not care about you. They care about themselves. So do not buy the demagoguery. Do not buy these Republicans othering everybody else. They know that pitting us against each other takes the attention away from the people who truly shoulder the blame for the issues plaguing this country, like the out-of-control income inequality, and the fact that the minimum wage hasn't gone up in decades, and the consolidation of big business, and the weakening of labor protections where the GOP is in control. Show them that we are willing to hold them accountable, and make sure that you vote as soon as possible heading into November. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.